Yeah, game 4 is here. And to kind of pick up the point, I want to pick up the pieces that you put down for me because Kanata and Cooper have been contested, right? Kanata notably has been contested in the most important tournaments of his recent career. I'm talking notably the last time he played in person. We saw the interviews, we saw what was going on in Copenhagen, right? So we'll just have to see if now that Kanata's kind of got his footing right here, he's got the lobby, you know, on smash right now with his damage. I think we're going to be seeing a very great performance out of Kanata come globals, but again, you got to make it there. You got to continue to play well, of course, over the FNCS Grand Finals weekend here. This Oliver OG performance out of Game 3 was a great one. Finally, at least finding a good set of points, right, coming out of this round. Last game, he secured about 20, close to 30 points, which is exactly what they needed, given that they were trailing behind big time here. Tony and Noisy, though, unfortunately not able to carry that little bit of momentum that they managed to pick up before, but hold up. Might have spoken a little too soon here. Craze has to play this one up and clutching possibly by himself here, and I love that he picked up the body here because he actually needed access to those SMGs there that Oliver OG had. Otherwise, it would have just been GG, but another team comes in and just the awareness of Craze to go ahead and slide out of there before things took a turn for the worse.
Yeah, Fluto and Statics, I mean, they just heard all of the noise that was taking place and immediately choosing to swoop in, play cleanup crew here. Noisy trying to do what he can to hide, but seen over ahead of that cone. Unfortunate window angle there from Fluto, and now he's trying to see if he can finish what he started, and Noisy, sure enough, will not be able to escape. Statics waiting on the outside of the breezy coast. So they'll be the only ones here profiting off of that initial exchange. And whether or not Craze is able to reboot Oliver OG remains to be determined. But they're not the only ones dealing with early contest in this lobby. Pleasant Piazza, Trashy and Threats. They've had up and down moments with these early spawn contests, and yet Dynamic he's got his work cut out for him before they can make the initial push.
On the other side, Mount Olympus, little fight going on here. Catch a tail end of that. Circus gonna go in, get quickly finished here, and this is a duo takedown for Z-Link and Antonio. Go ahead and throw them up onto the 50-point threshold now. And this has been somewhat of a back and forth right here at the Mount Olympus. So you're kind of seeing what the effects of these early game contested battles can do to a team overall on the leaderboards, regardless if you finish the fight fast or not.
Man, kind of surprised though to see so much traction this far north at Rebels Roost. As Reciprocal and G-Money, they've now got to deal with the likes of Puffy and Source. They're gonna have, well, actually, G-Money and Reciprocal, they could choose to aggress. They might actually need the damage, but it also seems like they're a little bit hesitant for the time being. They don't want to risk another third party, but when it's only a solo to threaten, not sure there's really anything to worry about just yet. Different scenario though for Noxy and Crisp. They're getting the better end of this exchange. That is until Fluto decides to do something about it. And sure enough, Crisp and Noxy, they don't even get the final elimination onto Fluto. That knock gonna be a revive, no problem here for Static. So they're gonna find themselves cut short here in Lobby 4. Meanwhile, 3 eliminations in tow now for Statics and Fluto.
And that's going to kill all of their momentum right now. Crisp and Noxy have been really marching to the tune of their own beat, finding themselves at 92 points in the middle of the, day one tournament. That's a fantastic performance. But now they will be slipping down. This will likely push them well outside the means of the top 10 and kind of put them in the middle of the pack. So game 5 and 6 are going to be absolutely telling for teams that have a chance now. The top competition falls here. Source and Puffy. And continue standoff here against G-Money. G-Money and Reciprocal have been based down for quite some time. You can see why now. It's because the material counts have been exhausted here.
G-Money though, still trying to go for the chop opportunity, but He's gonna have to abandon that shield potion as he watches his duo go down right in front of his eyes, and he joins shortly after. But yeah, that build situation, just too much of an issue there for them to actually recover and overcome. Hazard's got to be wary though. He might think that that's a prime opportunity to try and play cleanup like some of these other teams with their third-party exchanges, but Coffee and Source did not really lose a whole lot in that exchange. And Miro and Pink as well, they've had a relatively quiet day so far, which I think is partially credited to something that Vivid had actually pointed out earlier on. Because keep in mind, this is a team that lands at Charon's Crossing. They have a potential for a weapons bunker to spawn nearby them, but I do think that with that Surge Cacti change overnight, they've had to essentially hit the drawing board one more time because they've just found themselves under more pressure than usual because teams aren't necessarily rotating south as quickly as before.
Meanwhile, Paper and Victerv right now continue to rotate through. Seen this move before as teams cut through the Mount Olympus. You have a dash and seek set up just outside of it. I haven't sniffed out the fact that Paper was there until the shots come out, and now Paper's unfortunately going to be the first to get tagged here. Has to be careful though with leaving his cone open as visuals start to see in, and this is a great update here. Good to see Mixon and Blaha still alive. However,
Great for who?
the team on top of them right now. One of our point leaders here of Buga in Aviv.
I mean, when you think about what happened last lobby for Blaha and Mixon, I guess, yeah, technically this is a W, but they've got so much to make up for as far as the leaderboard is concerned, MDF, and if they want to find themselves on the better end of the secondary half of today's 6 lobbies, they've really got to pick up the pace here, and they knew they just weren't in a position. They did not feel comfortable with their loadouts to actually try and take that fight up with Buga and Aviv, but you almost have to wonder, is it worthwhile to disengage? Because at the same time, they need eliminations, they need placement points, and they have not had a very strong showing. I think over the past couple of weeks especially, their off-spawn situation has just been so problematic.
Yeah, the first step is definitely get some points. we have a ways to go here. I love this stat, by the way. We emphasize the fact that Vino and Clicks do tend to play very separate, and as we kind of showcase it, you literally see it in action. The 4th most furthest play duo from one another. Pretty fun stat. Let's see where Vino's going to go ahead and set up for right now. He's just seeming to be the thorn in duo sides here. Oh, this might be a problem, though. Could find himself in between a couple other teams here.
It's that forecast tower, though. Clicks and Veno, they usually want to try and lock in whenever it spawns, and keep in mind that is one of the most prone to spawning forecast towers in each and every lobby. I believe an 89% spawn rate for that exact forecast tower. A little bit northwest of Snooty Station, but that just means it's going to draw attention from other players in the lobby, that's for sure, and that's part of the reason why we saw Clicks and Veno kind of just toying around with that launch pad. Veno just trying to make sure that he keeps a good idea of where exactly teams might be trying to engage them from. Checking back in though, Blaha and Mixon, they found Chaos and Chance, and again, I don't think a fight is out of the question here for these two, because they just need the points. They need to start trying to get some surge damage online for themselves, and I think it's also just, it would be a really strong shift in confidence momentum as well for this duo, especially when you factor in what went south for them in the last lobby.
I'm just thinking on the other side of that as well, they've spent the majority of their day so far literally in the lobby. Like, you know, you start to lose your cool, you know, all the time you probably spent warming up, right? That starts to go out the window. You have an hour, right, idle, basically, waiting between games. So this is very important for them to, like you mentioned, take a fight, right? Keep the blood flowing, stay stay alert, try to stay in the game, and get the momentum, right? Find the confidence, because if they don't, it's only going to become more and more of a landslide. So we'll see, though. Peterbot and Pollo on the move here. Quanti and Jobco, again, one of our teams that are very well inside of the top of the standings right now. You see what their early games start to look like as things take shape for them. It's a bit scrappy here, that's for sure. Not as smooth as some of the others we've tuned in with so far as our top 5 standing teams are concerned.
At the same time, though, Quanti and Yapko, they're kind of just taking their time. They're not, they don't necessarily feel too threatened by where Flo and Sigma were at just yet, but they are wary of other teams that are more towards the base of Mount Olympus there. Baka and Pars, though, a little bit of trouble here at the Ship It station. And it's evident, other teams in the area, they'd like to look for a knock or a double elimination opportunity if possible, but it's not going to be easy to shake Baka and Pars by any means. And even more importantly still, Baka Pars, they don't necessarily feel like they need to outright pressure anyone surrounding them just yet, because they know they're currently in that first place position. They don't need to take any sort of reckless engagements just yet. They want to ensure that they're actually making it into the placements that matter.
And they're doing just that. They've been trending their way straight up the leaderboards, up the standings. The fact that they even picked up back-to-back victory royales, that's a incredible feat that not many duos have ever even accomplished over the history of Fortnite competitive. We had another shot here of a team based up outside of a single tower. See how this is going to end up playing out. Sid's highly exposed. He doesn't obviously recognize how many duos.
Does Vorteca know,
just
though?
outside of it. I'm not sure. See him looking back there, but I doubt it. I feel like they'd light up those wooden walls for sure.
He's like suspicious, but he doesn't necessarily expect there to have been anyone that kind of squeaked their way through, and Nerface even directly below their surge base, right?
Did you imagine he's like, yeah, I think I heard something. Like, nah, not a shot.
Nah. Like, surely not. I like this, though, from Paper and Victerv. Different method for getting to the top of Rift Island, and they may have actually beat Seek to the punch here. They're going to be the first ones to start building out, extending these little boxes. And that might just be enough to claim Rift Island. Dash gonna poke his head up and recognize, okay, they've already established themselves. It's gonna be hard to shake them out of this exact area. So the capture point seemingly gonna go to Victerv and Paper for this one.
You see the standing showing us that Baka and Pars is not in this lobby. They are down for the count. This is going to open things up for Bugha and Aviv potentially, but more importantly, everyone else that has a long way to climb if you want to get in that 200-point conversation into that threshold here. Meanwhile, Curly and Raze just laying directly on top of Victerv and Paper, who have already secured the goods here. Ooh, floor breaks out. Victor's got him trapped nearly there. But Raze slips out the side. It just shows you how quickly you get sent back to lobby by one of these pro players.
Victerv being smart as well. He could have aggressed more heavily against Raze and Curly, especially after getting that shield break, but understanding Seek and Dash, they're still on the island. It's not worth compromising our position just yet and then getting sandwiched between two separate teams, even if one of the duos is a little bit, you know, tagged up here. So I like the discipline from Victerv and Paper. They're just holding strong. They know they're sitting pretty. 320 above on that damage threshold is enough, I think, for the time being, MDF, for them to at least not feel the necessities to overexpose themselves.
Yeah, this is a very interesting read here, because if you're Paper and Victerv and you're seeing a team land on you and like push you like that, you're immediately thinking, dude, these guys are probably under the surge. Like, they're going to be desperate. But it's in fact the opposite. Like, Curly and Raze have no worries about the surge either. They're also like 300 above, so they're just playing like, yes, catch up for points right now. but it probably does leave Paper and Victerv thinking a completely different scenario. And hopefully they don't, you know, overcompensate that thought and take a fight that they're going to regret, thinking that the Surge is going to support them later on. So we'll just have to keep a close eye on that one. But on the other side, Paco and kind of Vorteca, they've moved around quite a bit. And this is, again, another clash just against a completely different team. This time, you know, Sid and Nerface. So that fight finally breaks out from that single tower where Nerface and company were trying to ambush them, but clearly wasn't successful.
Yeah, nothing really ever came to fruition there for Sid and Nerface. They kind of just expended a lot of time and maybe were able to establish enough tags to give them something to work with for their next rotate. But checking in with Mongrel and Mr. Savage, again, I think another team where uncontested at the Cliffside Lodge, you kind of hope to see them sort of making waves a little bit earlier on in some of these leaderboard point situations, but it seems as though every team has had their fair share of struggles since having to make those last-minute adaptations towards the changes. I know one big strategy that Mongrel and Mr. Savage used to love employing is they would camp those flaming boost hoops near the Cliffside Lodge and sort of bottleneck rotates from other teams, and they could do it a lot easier with the slurp cacti, but now that they don't have those slurp cacti because it's a one-and-done use situation, it's obviously going to make things more difficult, and Tayson is just roasting people from across the map with his Huntress DMR.
Which you gotta hit those shots, right? Especially when they reveal themselves to you, because if he hadn't hit all 3 or 4 of those tags, they would probably be below the Surge right now. So very important moments, very serious clutch shots right there for the team to keep them comfortable in the game right now. Reet and Ritual, though, have only earned 40 points so far across these 3 games here. This is an extremely critical moment for them, and unfortunately is, again, against the likes of Bugha and Aviv, who are just playing very, very well. I'm always wary of the teams that have seemed to figure it out and have the momentum in their favor.
Point-wise, Reed and Ritual obviously not on the same level as Bugha and Aviv yet, but at the same time, Bugha and Aviv, they're looking a little bit worse, I think, than Ritual and Reed as far as the loadouts are concerned. The main thing here, though, for Bugha and Aviv, we see them sitting below that Surge threshold, but they're actually going to opt not to take that immediate fight with Reed and Ritual any longer. Instead, they're going to rotate a little bit further towards that edge of zone and kind of just hope that they can cut off a team that's entering from this west side of the zone. But regardless of the circumstance, MDF, they've got to start converting to damage real soon. Otherwise, they're going to expend all of their shields that they have currently left over on just making sure that they don't lose shield entirely.
Look, they're going straight to the congested side, and they're going to land on top of Aegis and Rise. That was just an opportunity that I think presented itself, and the play and the call was made, and now they're going for it. Luckily, no team starts to fire from behind here, because this could have turned really, really bad, but Aviv in trouble now. Rise and Aegis fight back. And that was... I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how I feel about the rotate. I kind of understood the decision to get to a position, but I think when the Surge updated, that caught them off guard, and they had to make a pivot there. So it just seems like things kind of, you know, veered off course for them, and they're just keying teams right now. Next up is Rapid. Rapid and Batman Bugha. Again, these are great teams they're fighting right now. They haven't got lucky as far as the choice or the options are concerned. It's just a bunch of teams that are also equally playing very, very well here today.
Yeah, but there can only be one in this lobby, and Batman Bugha is going to defeat his shadow of Lobby 4. Bugha now out of this match, and Batman Bugha Rapid as well. The one apiece. So Aviv, that's a big refresh that Batman Bugha and Rapid just collected onto that duo. And that's going to help propel them forward in this match, because we don't know what their Surge situation was like prior to taking that exchange, MDF, but you have to expect that they felt pretty confident about the outcome. And yeah, sure enough, 273 above, they needed that fight as well.
And this is like when the, student defeats the master right here. Batman, Booga, and Rapid taking down Booga and Aviv. It's got to hurt him a little bit. Probably also gets him a little excited, not going to lie. But at the end of the day, now we have first and second place down, which means that the entire, runway has truly opened up. What was a pretty substantial lead for Batman, Booga, and Aviv, and an opportunity, right, that opened up because Bach and Pars were taken down, is now effectively gone to waste here, and it has given everyone else a chance to go ahead and close that gap. And while we kind of follow along with Acorn and Cold here, Mongrel and Mr. Savage are still alive right now too, but look at this fight. Boyo found out by Cold and Acorn. This is a very important turn of events for Peterbot now as well. All the big heavy hitters are falling.
And you have to remember, Peterbot and Pollo, they're not even necessarily in the position they want to be as far as the leaderboard is concerned.
Oh,
Cold and Acorn just shutting down any sort of momentum that they may have had otherwise. They're going to get that refresh. Cold, though, still got to be wary of the team surrounding them. Sure enough, right behind, they've got to deal with Mongrel, Mr. Savage pressuring their wall. They're going to opt to immediately start building into some of their metal. They need some form of safety here on the low ground. And again, they know there's at least one team behind us because somebody was trying to take shots from behind us. So they're definitely going to be much more cautious before they press forward. Cooper, though, underneath the surge, one more tick will spell the end of it, and he's not going to be able to keep this one alive.
Yeah, and they just barely got to the, very, very important part of this end game here with placement points start to get given out. I was trying to look for a semblance of Peterbot's name. Did he even make it out of there? As Boya was obviously claimed here by Clix and Vino, but moving on, big rotates come out here. This is the definite best spot to be in, front side of the next zone here on the move, and they're playing for a refresh. 4 mats are left here. Pressure coming in from the side. It's going to be Seek who gets claimed here. And a big, big find there. That's exactly what Vino wanted. 400 mats here. And another one. This one onto Blaha, who finally saw a little bit of light in this game. Gets claimed up and added to the toll here. Vino and Clix will be jumping up into the 200+ point threshold, officially seating them on the podium at the moment. And this is their biggest game yet.
But this is the time where Veno, he's going to start looking upwards, trying to get an idea of how many teams, if any, are actually looking to control height. You can see Peterbot way off in the distance, sitting as a solo. Can't necessarily say he's controlling height, but the fact that he's up there in the first place takes a lot of confidence to make that move, and he's trying to hold his current position, but now he's got the rest of the lobby pouring in, crash padding around him. He might still be able to find some cracks. Any of these duos that get split for even a moment, or any sort of straggling solos, that could be a big opportunity for him. It's the same sort of mentality that Yapko is currently operating off of. He's got that Thunderburst, that Gatekeeper primed and ready, but he's still a solo in a sea of duos, and Veno Clix. They just continue to maintain their spot at the front side of zone. They're holding, looks to be mid-ground for the time being, but a layer switch, it almost seems like it's inevitable at this point for these two.
Yeah, Vino and Clix are looking like one of the stronger duos in this game right now. Japko's solo, he gets taken out. Batman Booga's also solo, just trying to hold on right now. And Clix and Vino, having that knowledge of the storm, seems to just be playing very, very much into their favor right now, as they are staying ahead of the storm perfectly right now, and positioning themselves to just find refresh after refresh. On high ground, Mordecai and Rigby are going to be the biggest upset to the standings, because little do I think most of you guys know, they are creeping their way, I think, into the top 5 right now, by the way. Just keep that in mind. Do not be surprised if they end up at the very, very top of the standings. But first, we got to look at Batman Booga trying to make this ridiculous rotate here up the mountain. Goes through all of his mats here, but he makes it.
He might get a moment to breathe here as well. He's just got to stay ahead of the pack, and at least for right now, he's gone by completely undiscovered. But he can hear the duo above him, Mordecai Rigby stomping around. He drops, but it's not where he wanted to go, straight into Tayson's box, and sure enough, Peterbot still managing to keep his placements headed strong. This is exactly the kind of clutch that we've come to expect, though, out of Peterbot.
And Mongrel's still alive. Mr. Savage is alive right there in the mid-game. Here it is, a fight for high ground. Victerv Paper go up to the top, and they are trying to take their momentum from the semis into the finals now. Victerv and Paper are at 5 eliminations, holding high ground right now, and have several hundred material. Meanwhile, here is Mr. Savage here, alive and well. 5 eliminations for the pair, but he is barely holding on here. Peterbot is just cleaning up house, takes down Mordecai by himself into the top 5 by himself. Still doing it, still running through.
At the same time, Peterbot, he might even be doing Paper and Victerv a favor. Reet and Ritual, they're not going to join the mix on the low ground. Yamzo, Tayson trying to break through these builds, but they're getting tagged up from every direction. Yamzo even opting, I'm just going to play for the med kits at this point. Tayson doing what he can to keep darting forward, staying next to his duo as much as possible, but it's Reet, it's Ritual. They're gonna be the ones still holding strong on the low ground. Paper and Victerv, on the other hand, they have all the advantages here on height.
Yeah, but they're out of maps now, have to come down here. The hand cannon was a miss, but the tag was beautiful from Paper, and Victerv does so much damage in the end that the Storm will close it out for him and do the rest there. And that's gonna be an 8 elimination game, an 8 elimination win for Victerv and Paper there. And like we said, the fact that they have managed to keep the momentum from semis into the grand finals is a story in its own. That is a huge, huge moment.
And when you even think about where they were at earlier in this specific lobby, MDF, they did not look like they had the components necessary to make such a strong late game push. But the recovery methods that they utilized could not have come at a better time. They just did such a good job at controlling the high ground after they seized control of it. And I think Paper especially deserves his kudos. That mythic hand cannon paying off dividends for him.
That really opened things up. And then look at this. Once again, you get to see it in the end. He did damage to everyone there. He manages to win the game, and I love that we get the reaction. This time he doesn't get serious at the end. He keeps the smile all the way through to the end. Game 4 locked and loaded for its Victerv and Elite's Paper there. What a game. And I love that we got to learn a little bit about that duo too last week with the interview. So we're feeling good. Things are getting heated up here. Let's go ahead and give us a little break so we can have more Fortnite when we get back.